Hey, my loves, it's your girl, Karen Tappan, CEO of Karen's Body Beautiful. Welcome back to another episode of the Karen Says Talk Show. The phone lines are open, so call us at 800-628-2210 or tweet us at Karen Says Show to ask questions or share comments about tonight's show. We're coming to you live, and we'll do so every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here in Google Hangout and my YouTube channel. I'm excited about tonight's show because my guest, Lindsay Fauntleroy, is my friend and my acupuncturist. She's a licensed acupuncturist, flower essence therapist, and a certified alchemical transformation coach. What's that? All things that can transform your life. Now we're going to have Lindsay explain what all that means tonight. And at the end of the day, she's qualified to help you change your life around. I am currently under her care for a health condition that I will disclose at a later date. So you got to stay tuned. Acupuncture, needles. What's that all about?
Well, the funny thing is when people talk, hi, Karen.
Hi, babe.
So good to be here. Thank you for having me on the show. And so acupuncture, needles, like you said, a lot of times when people think of needles, they think of those big, scary needles that they get at a doctor's office. And the main thing that I like people to know right up front is that it's totally different, that the needles we use in acupuncture are about the width of a piece of hair. So they're super tiny. And it's really moving what we call the etheric body, which is a layer of the subtle body, to change the blueprint of healing. So, for example, if you cut your hand and you put on a Band-Aid, we all know that it's not the Band-Aid that does the healing. It's your body that knows what it's supposed to look like, healthy and whole. And so what acupuncture does is it addresses the part of ourselves that is a blueprint for wholeness and well-being.
I mean, that sounded, for someone like you, that makes perfect sense.
Right.
All I can share with you is that the needles don't hurt.
They don't
I'm sure
hurt.
that's what's going on in people's minds. The needles hurt because when people hear needles, there are people that pass out at the thought of getting some kind of injection or some kind of needling. So the needles don't hurt. You can barely feel them.
You can barely feel them. One of the things is that the needle goes past the pain receptors in the skin. So a lot of times I'll be halfway through a treatment and someone say, well, when are you going to start? Like, I'm almost done, because they don't even feel it. What most people feel is this kind of warm sensation, energy, or what we say in Chinese medicine, qi, moving around. And it's usually very comforting and relaxing, and it should feel good. Acupuncture should feel good. It should not hurt.
Okay. So what are some common illnesses and conditions that people come to you for?
Sure. What I tell people is that acupuncture is great for pain, stress, and personal evolution. So pain,
that's everything.
That's everything. Okay. But more specifically, for pain, it's, of course, a lot of people associate acupuncture with kind of post-trauma pain, car accidents, sports injuries, any kind of musculoskeletal pain in their body. But also pain relates to anything that you would see an internist for. So GI distress, digestive issues, period pain is a huge thing in my practice. A lot of women coming in to regulate their menstrual cycles and also to deal with painful menstruation. So asthma, coughing, wheezing, any of those symptoms we consider pain or discomfort, and that's something that acupuncture can treat. Stress, acupuncture is great for any type of anxiety, sadness, depression. Yeah, it's pretty incredible, the scope of things that acupuncture can touch and treat.
Okay. And so over what span of treatments can one expect to feel and see a difference or change?
Everybody's really different. There's some people who respond very quickly to acupuncture. I'm one of those people, which is what got me so intrigued with acupuncture to begin with. So some people feel the effects immediately. It's kind of auto-regulatory. So people who come in tired end up feeling more energized. People who are coming in energized or anxiety and kind of end up feeling nice and calm and relaxed. So it has that balance. But in terms of a healing regimen, it varies. So how long you've had the condition. If you've been in pain for 20 years, which I definitely see people who have been carrying pain for that long, it's incredible. We might prescribe a longer course of treatment. If something's relatively new, I fell down the stairs, I bumped my knee, or I hurt my elbow playing tennis, any of those things, then we would expect a shorter course of treatment.
Okay, so alternative medicine. You practice a whole bunch of different types of alternative medicine. I
Yeah.
want you to talk about the two things that you are certified and licensed in. Flower essence therapy.
Flower essence therapy.
Okay, what are you doing when you practice flower essence therapy?
So flower essences are, I call them like nature's hidden secret, and they're really on the outskirts of the alternative medicine community. They're really like kind of a hidden ninja weapon. And so what flower essences are, it's kind of a cross between using herbs and homeopathy. So it's using this kind of energy body of a plant, which I know some people are going to hear that word energy is like, oh, what are you talking about? So I'll go back to that in a minute. But it's using the energy body of a plant to change our thoughts and our perceptions and help us move through stuck emotions. So, we say that, all emotions are natural and healthy. We don't want to numb ourselves and make ourselves not feel anything. But we've all been in those situations where we've held on to something too long. We've had a breakup from a boyfriend, and like 3 years later, we're still mourning that loss. Then flower essences are something that can support and be a catalyst for moving through those emotions that are kind of persistent and just won't go away.
Okay, and with alchemical transformation. Did I say that right?
Alchemical healing. Alchemical transformation.
Okay, what is that?
So alchemical transformation coaching is a way of looking at the things that happen in our lives and moving through them, not in a position that says we want to go back to the way that we were. So anytime we have a crisis, we have a death in the family, we have a divorce, we got fired from our job, any of those things that kind of knock us on our butt and say, oh my God, what am I doing? How did I get here? What alchemical transformation coaching does is helps us to look at that moment, that piece of lead, that little grit that's in our lives, and move through it in a way that we see the value in it. We see the lessons that we were supposed to learn, and we carry those lessons into a better version of ourselves. So one of the principles of alchemy is that it's not about going back to the way we were. It's not about getting the job back or getting the relationship back, but saying, okay, this was something that happened that I can learn from and move forward from and be a different self, to be a more whole or more complete or more authentic self.
So this is like the kind of stuff that people go to psychologists and psychiatrists for often. But you, instead of taking psychotropic drugs that have all kind of homicidal and suicidal side effects, you're just prescribing, using that word loosely, flower essences.
Flower essences in tandem with the acupuncture, in tandem with coaching. And I wouldn't say that it's in place of the pharmaceutical medications. I think everyone is different. And so there are certainly patients that I have in my practice who I work in tandem with their psychologist, work in tandem with their psychiatrist so that they feel fully supported. I never say, oh, just get off of that stuff, because I like for people to feel supported. But what I have had people say is, wow, after 10 years of therapy, I'm getting more insights and moving through more blocks than I have in the 10 years. And that, to me, says something about this approach.
Okay, what made you get into all this? This is interesting. I've never met anyone that has so many places that they can pull from a bag to help heal someone emotionally and physically.
Well, I mean, honestly, it all started with my own personal journey to healing. This is going back, I guess, wow, it's been about 12 years ago. About 12 years ago, I was in my early to mid 20s, without saying too much about my age. And I was diagnosed with premature menopause. And so, or premature, at that time, they've changed the terminology around it, but at that time it was called premature ovarian failure. And what that meant was that—
Damn, how negative can you be?
I know, premature ovarian failure is like shut it down.
No hope whatsoever.
There's no hope whatsoever. And that was really what the doctors told me. There is no hope. You are in active menopause. I hadn't had a period in about 2 years. For those of y'all who want to know all my business. And so they were saying that the only way that I could have a child was through either adoption or through a donor egg, which was tens of thousands of dollars. I didn't have insurance, and that wasn't an option for me. And I was really lucky at that time because I was surrounded by so many holistic practitioners, also the meditation community that I was a part of. And one of the things that they helped me realize is that the body is something dynamic. It's constantly changing. And so just because you're facing something ill in your health right now, it doesn't have to be a permanent stamp of disease, that your body's changing, that you can work to heal it. And that was how I got introduced to flower essences and meditation and acupuncture. And it just really changed my life. I fell in love with all of it. And soon after my daughter was born. So it was kind of like, look at this. She was born, she was healthy.
Right.
So much for not being able to have children. I decided that I wanted to really share that and share that experience with other women, and particularly women of color, because, you know, there's so many degenerative diseases that African American women are most at risk for. We're talking about lupus, multiple sclerosis, asthma, diabetes, any of these really degenerative diseases, and holistic medicine is really helpful for and really supportive of. But African American women are the least likely of all demographics to access alternative medicine. So I really wanted to share what I learned and been blessed enough to be around with other women.
Okay, so what are the connections between emotions and health?
Oh, it's huge.
I know it's huge.
I know it's huge. Okay.
I'm such an optimistic person. Like everything that I want, I go for in life. It comes to fruition. And so I have a few friends and people that I know that are not as optimistic or hopeful about things. And to me, it's as simple as just want it. Just believe that it's going to happen. And it will. Whatever you believe it will be, it will be. And so clearly you are way more, trained and qualified to quantify what that feeling is and what those emotions are.
So I'll start by saying that all of our cells in our body have intelligence. It's not just our brain. That's a very new concept in terms of the history of medicine, this idea that our brain is the command center and knows everything, but that all of our cells have intelligence and have desire and have the capacity to be programmed. A lot of times what happens, particularly with the more serious illnesses, what I found in my practice is that it's often the body asking for attention in some way. It's asking for us to make some shift in our life. A lot of times, a lot of women are walking around holding a depression or feeling a trapped feeling that they can't really articulate and don't necessarily want to look at. And then we start getting these different messages from our bodies, whether it's the woman that's overworking and all of a sudden she has to slow down. It just runs the gamut. So this idea that our emotions are messages, and that when we slow down enough to listen to them, we can start uncovering and unraveling some of what's happening in our body and make really positive changes.
Okay. So I just want to take one quick question.
Okay.
And this person, where is she calling from? She is calling from New Jersey.
Okay.
She wants to know if there are herbal substances that she can take for vaginal dryness as opposed to taking medical prescribed pills. Before you answer that question, we have to share a disclaimer.
Yes.
And so that disclaimer is that you cannot prescribe specific treatments to people in terms of medication. Go ahead.
Well, I can't just prescribe specific supplements and medications on the air, and that's for several reasons. One is because for Chinese medicine diagnostics, we look at the tongue, we look at the pulse, because for every disease or symptom, there can be a ton of different underlying factors that are contributing to that. So you have 5 people with diabetes, but all 5 of them have kind of a different underlying mechanism, and each of those underlying causes would require a different set of herbs. So I can't give herbal advice over the air. But to answer the question, vaginal dryness, vaginal atrophy, often associated with menopause. So the symptoms of heat flashes and, kind of emotional upsets and turmoil are all things that are very common in the world of acupuncture. And usually a combination of acupuncture therapy along with the herbal supplements can support really transforming that and reviving the tissue, bringing back the lubrication, that sort of thing.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds interesting. Okay, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Pay attention to our commercial messages. We'll have some more questions after the break. Are you natural, transitioning, or relaxed and want your hair to be healthy and more manageable? My name is Karen Tappan, CEO of Karen's Body Beautiful. Is your hair dry? Try my line of nourishing natural products for the whole family. Being naturally chic. Visit karensbodybeautiful.com for where to buy.
Hello, my name is Berman Finellis. I'm asking for your support for my next short film, Privilege. Privilege is a short film that reflects the epidemic of police brutality in communities of color. The audience witnesses the effects of such an encounter when it strikes an affluent African-American family who, despite their accomplishments and achievements, realize they could still fall victim to the violent world which they thought they were far removed from. This unjust American epidemic of killing unarmed people of color by law enforcement seems to have no end. The media chooses to focus on the few bad seeds rather than the millions that protest and rally for fairness and change on this matter. My team and I have been blessed to have worked with major brands and agencies, and our experience spans over 15 years. We have produced hundreds of commercials, music videos, and branded content. My previous short film, Lana, was well received in festivals and screenings nationwide. We were fortunate enough to win the jury's selection of excellence at the South Dakota Film Festival and the Audience Choice Award at IndieWorks. This is a project that we are deeply passionate about, and even more so believe that it needs to be seen. Our main goal is to be the voice for those who are often portrayed as villains through society's stereotypes, when in contrast, they are really the victims. Privilege is more than just a movie. It's a movement that my team, myself, and millions around the world are part of. We realize that not only Black lives matter, but all lives matter. You can be a part of this movement. We are aiming to raise $20,000 to make this film, and we humbly ask for your support. Whether it's spreading the word via social media or you give whatever you can, we appreciate it.
Are you natural? We have Lindsay Fauntleroy, certified licensed acupuncturist, my acupuncturist. She is a flower essence certified therapist and an alchemical transformation coach.
Chemical transformation coach.
You know why? Because I keep thinking the word alchemy.
It is. It's exactly that. That idea of turning lead into gold is exactly the idea of the coaching.
All right, alchemical. So we're going to go to a few questions that people have called in and shared with us. And thank you very much for calling in and giving us your questions. The second question is Brandy from Virginia. She wants to know, is there a healthy way to transition from a carnivorous diet to a vegan or pescatarian diet because chicken upsets her stomach?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. With all dietary changes, I recommend transferring gradually. So start by, if you know that chicken is the thing that doesn't agree with you, start by withdrawing that and then gradually replacing the meals. One thing that's really important when you're transferring to a vegetarian or vegan diet is to make sure that you're getting adequate protein that's not coming from a soy source. So there's a lot, with the boom of veganism and vegetarianism, there's a lot of kind of artificial meat products, which are great every now and then, but you really want to stick to whole foods. So your lentils, your beans, and your quinoa, your other sources of whole protein.
Okay. Amina from New Jersey has been getting little moles on her face as she gets older. And she wants to know if there's an alternative route she can take to remove her moles as opposed to laser surgery her doctor has recommended. What do you recommend?
I would say, Amina, you can go ahead and get in touch with me. That's a little bit more specific that I'd like to talk about on air, but I welcome you to get in touch with me and we can talk about it in more detail. One thing that I will say, though, as it relates to flower essences, is that there are a lot of flower essences that speak to how we as women embrace our bodies as we're changing. And, I feel like in this society, there's so much that propagates a certain way of looking. And as we age, and I see this a lot in my practice, things start to sag, things start to hang, things don't look the way they did 20 years ago. And so that's one of the areas where the emotional piece is a really key thing in terms of looking at how do we support our body and love ourselves through the changes that often the quote unquote symptoms are speaking about.
Okay. And so back pain is a very, very common thing. People get addicted to drugs because they're trying to get rid of that back pain.
Yeah.
What's a common, what do you recommend based on the various things that you practice? How do you integrate all those different types of alternative medicine into a healing regimen?
Well, the first thing is that folks should know is that back pain is one of the highest accessed acupuncture is used most often, more than any other ailment, for back pain specifically. So acupuncture is extremely effective in alleviating back pain. So the first part of that healing regimen would be getting the differential diagnosis, so finding what the underlying root is, so it's different for everyone. And we would look at that from both the Chinese medical perspective as well as looking at, whatever lab tests, MRIs, x-rays that the patient has. And then we would develop a treatment plan based on that would include herbal medicine, acupuncture therapy, and then also sometimes, again, with the flower essence work, it's looking at what are the lifestyle changes that someone has to make. Sometimes it's occupational, how they're sitting at their desk, where their computer is, those sorts of things. And sometimes it's just the going. We see this a lot in New York City, where people are working extremely long hours. So there's that aspect of it. If someone were recovering from an accident, there's the trauma side of it. So we would work from all of those different perspectives. But acupuncture is extremely effective for back pain.
Okay. Can you share how people can get in contact with you? Because I don't want to end the show before you do that. I don't want to forget.
Sure. So my website is oceansandrivers.com. So that's www.oceansandrivers.com. They can also reach me by phone at 718-913-0037, and through my blog, where I talk about kind of a modern application of Chinese medical theory. So that is alwaysinmyelement.com.
So we talk all the time. We have our children are like BFFs. So I know you have some
basketball wives.
Oh yeah,
they're more basketball wives.
Sometimes they're basketball wives. Yeah, and we got to break that up. I know you have some workshops coming up. You have a retreat in the Catskills that's up and coming. Can you share?
So excited. So that is Harvest Moon Retreat. We did a retreat in the Catskills.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Harvest Moon Retreat.
Harvest Moon. Okay, so the Harvest Moon is the full moon closest to the equinox. So it's when the moon is closest to the earth. So it's this beautiful, brilliant, gorgeous moon. And I thought, well, if I want to see this moon in nature, I don't want to be looking at it through the blinds of my apartment. And so that's the weekend that we're going to do it. It's September 24th through the 27th. Okay. And we did a retreat in the Catskills for Memorial Day, and it was fantastic. And so right away, I was like, okay, we're going back. And so that retreat is, like I said, September 24th through the 27th.
And when are you going to do your In My Element Business Boot Camp? Because I spoke. Thank you for giving me the
Yes, it was so great having you there. The In My Element Business Boot Camp is going to be next spring. So right now it's being offered as a private coaching course. So for those women entrepreneurs who are, or goddess entrepreneuresses, who are trying to get their business off the ground or take it to the next level, can do one-on-one sessions with me and move through the In My Element curriculum to get their business really up and running and prosperous. But the next women's program that I have coming up is the Kamaria Circle.
I was just going to ask about that.
That is one of my babies and one of my favorites. And that's a course in leading from the sacred feminine. So that's a course that's open to women who are about their business and who are stepping into a position of leadership, either in their community, in their home, in their career. And it really teaches those tools of leading from the sacred feminine, which is different than, what we're accustomed when we think about leadership.
Leading from the sacred feminine. What does that mean?
So we are in a society where we are accustomed to traditional models of leadership where, it makes me think of the executive in the boardroom who's handing out, directives. We tend to think of kind of like a cold, callous approach to leadership. Leading from the sacred feminine means that we are listening to our bodies when we make decisions. Mm-hmm. That right there is huge. A lot of us are so accustomed to functioning out of our heads that this idea of listening to our intuition to make business decisions, to make life decisions is huge. It's about diving into different goddess and sacred archetypes as kind of a model or a template for our behavior. It's looking at our astrology. It's looking at all of these kind of different ancient tools that are easily accessible and widely applicable when we're looking at our leadership process. And really it's about following our path, standing behind our truth, living with authenticity, and not backing down.
Damn. What do you not do that is all woman, like Relax, relate, release. I was involved with that a couple
Yes.
times. Can you talk about that?
So Relax, Relate, Release was a day retreat that we would do, and we would bring in different phenomenal speakers like yours truly to empower women. And it was kind of a one-stop shop for women's healing. So we would talk about career, we would talk about relationships, we would talk about sex, we would talk about health and healing. So we would do it as a day retreat because for a lot of women, particularly mothers, it was not really possible to get out of the city for long weekend excursions. So we would do it as a day retreat in the summer. So we're not doing it this summer because of our fabulous Harvest Moon retreat, but we'll be bringing it back.
Oh, it's this weekend? No. It's, when is the Harvest Moon retreat?
September.
September. Okay. And the Sacred Sassy Sexy Party. For women who trying to get their groove
Sacred,
on and
sexy,
figure out.
sassy. So what I do is something called flower power parties. And so what that is that a woman who has a group of friends that need to get their life together, basically, will choose a theme, and I'll come in and do a workshop, and everyone will mix up their own flower essences to move through the blocks in that area. So Sacred, Sassy, Sexy Party is a flower power party where we're going to be talking about intimacy, emotional and sexual intimacy, and how to juice that up, liven that up, break down those blockages. And so it's a private party because someone is hosting it, but I invite all women. It's going to be fabulous, good fun. So if anyone is listening and feel like that's something that they need and their girlfriends need, they should contact me and we'll set it up.
Okay. So on a regular basis, people can reach you to do different types of private coaching
and treatments.
And so someone could just come to you and be like, my life's a mess.
Yes.
And you can identify where they need to go, and or they can come to you and have specific questions about specific goals. And
right, it can come from either direction. So I have a treatment room that has these purple walls, and a lot of times what happens is that people fill out my 10-page intake form and they have in their mind what they want to talk about, but when they get in the room, whatever's really there comes out. And so I do have a lot of people who come in and it's just, you know, the sobbing and the release of, I don't know where to start. And that's fine. And that's beautiful because that's often the first step.
Sometimes people don't know. And
sometimes you really don't know. So, I mean, I do some of the exercises for myself when I'm feeling stressed out and I can't pinpoint where it is. But then I also have people who come in and say, oh, okay, well, I'm trying to get pregnant in the next 3 months. Let's work on that. Or my back hurts. Let's work on that. So both sides of the spectrum.
Okay. All right, this is very interesting. I might come to you for a couple things I want to work on.
Yeah, come on in, Karen. Come on in.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Lindsay Fauntleroy, my good friend, my mommy friend, basketball wife mommy of our children. Thank you for sharing about your career and the things that you can offer people about acupuncture and alternative medicine. Make sure you tune in live next week, Monday at 7 p.m. Call us at 628-2210 or tweet us your questions or comments at Karen Says Show. As always, I want to thank Natasha Gaspard, who is sitting in front of me. You can't see her, but she is the woman behind all of this, the magic that makes this happen. You'll see her next on Monday, July 6th on our Beauty Bubble. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. Give us a thumbs up. Share with us what your thoughts are, and let us know what you want to see. Thank you for watching. See you next week.